And Representative Frankie, before you begin, I have an amendment, the 0124 A17. The amendment to get the bill in shape you would like, the chair would move that amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, to your amended bill, Representative Frankie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, House File 1475, what we're doing here is we're creating and establishing a new felony offense for persons who solicit, collect, or provide material support or resources to further an act of terrorism. It establishes a 15-year, 7-year for violating the statute, and that's pretty much it as far as the bill's concerned. The idea comes from, let's just put something on the books for the state of Minnesota. I also have no objection from the County Attorneys Association or the Chiefs Association and the Sheriff's Association. I think this is all just about putting something on the books, a tool in the tool basket that we need to. I would also like to add that with the amendment, when I was shopping this around, I spoke with Representative Pinto and a few others about the concerns of the wording of the bill concerning coercion and how that might affect freedom of speech rights. So in the spirit of bipartisanship, we did add that coercion means compulsion by physical force or threat of physical force. So trying to include everybody in this bill. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Member questions? Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Frankie. I just have a question about line 2.1. So the section 2, influence the policy of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion. What do you envision that that would be?
Representative Frank.
I mean,
I envision it to be just the way the government operates, honestly. Not necessarily the policy. That's where the freedom of speech came in that line. So basically just saying you cannot intimidate or hold our government hostage in any way, shape, or form. That's how I see it.
So, Mr. Chair.
Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm interested in the word influence. That's just a very, very broad word, influence. I don't have any issues with any other piece of your bill. I just want to figure out what it is that influence the policy of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion, what that would be. So, for example, if I came, I think I'm just going to need to get some more clarification before we put this in the bill, just on what that influence word should maybe be.
Okay, thank you, Representative Hillstrom.
Mr. Chair, Representative Hillstrom,
Yeah.
I guess I would kind of look at that as, let's say there's a decision being made at the governmental level, or you're trying to dissuade somebody from making a policy decision, and somebody kidnaps your family, and they're trying to, influence you to make a decision, however favorable that would be for their cause. I guess that would be one instance in how I would see that as how you would try to influence the policy of the government.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. I just want to make sure that it's those kinds of acts that we're getting at instead of, me saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to sue you, right? That would be trying to coerce you or intimidate you to do something, right? I just want to make sure that we're actually getting at the very acts that we're interested in and not the very acts that sometimes people say in the heat of anger, to influence their government. And so, again, I'm fine with your bill. I just am not sure that influence is the right word that you're looking for based on what you're trying to get at.
Okay, thank you, Representative Hillstrom. We'll address that here before the bill comes up again. Representative Considine, followed by Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're creating a new felony with, it looks like 15 years in prison. How can there not be a fiscal impact on that?
Mr. Walsh, you answer?
Mr. Chair and Representative Considine, the fiscal note in the packet sentencing guideline assumes that there would be extremely rare, if any, cases of prosecution under state law. They would most likely be done by the federal government.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Frankie, and appreciate the clarification on coercion in the amendment. I guess I do share Representative Hillstrom's concern about that line 2.1, and maybe not just the term influence, but also the term intimidation, which I think was what she was getting at in the idea of a lawsuit. Coercion, we've got defined here to be physical force, et cetera, but people can be intimidated by something that's not necessarily something physical. And I guess I'm also thinking about situations that that may be intimidating or criminal, but may not be something that we'd want captured in a bill like this, or in this kind of crime. You think about a municipal government, somebody who's gets angry at their local government about something about how they're keeping up their home or their yard or that sort of thing, and things can get pretty heated, and you could imagine somebody being pretty intimidating, maybe even being criminally intimidating, but would we necessarily want them penalized in this way? I note that the fiscal note makes reference to the fact that she says under the assumptions there's concern the broad language included in the bill could be interpreted and used for any number of cases not necessarily related to terrorism. So I do support the general concept. I do wonder a little bit about the purpose for this, if there's some gap that needs to be closed. But I appreciate the intent of it in general. But I guess I'm with Representative Hillstrom in terms of that line 2.1 especially. I might want to just connect with you a little bit further on the language to make sure that it's focused. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Representative Frankie will talk to you between now and when the bill comes up again. Any other member questions? Any questions from the public? If not, the chair will renew his motion.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Chair. And I would like to add that I did bring treats.
Oh, good job. You want to
And I was thinking of Representative Newberger over here when I stopped and picked up Supermoms. So we had
Mr.
donuts
Chair.
from Supermom's Bakery.
I'll let the record show that I love Supermoms.
Mr. Chair,
Representative Considine.
Representative Frankie in Health and Human Services actually went to the, after he had done so, went and got Jimmy John's and brought him back for the Health and Human Services yesterday. So a good member on your side.
Thank you, Representative Frankie, and the chair will move House File 1475 to be held over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members.